Welcome to stand by. At this time, quick reminder, today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now, I turn today's meeting over to your host, Mr. Adrian Russell. Thank you. You may begin.
Hello, welcome to the 2018 New Markets Tax Credit Electric Application webinar. My name is Adrian Russell, and I'm a Policy and Program Officer with the New Markets Tax Credit Program team. I'm joined today by my colleagues Joan Reed-Patrick and Jason Penn. We will be guiding you through this instructional webinar, which is designed to illustrate the operational functionality of the New Markets Tax Credit Program allocation application within AMIS. Let's begin by reviewing the steps you should take to access AMIS. To start an electronic New Markets allocation application in AMIS, you'll need to go to amis.cdfifund.gov and the Login tab at the top of the page on the login screen to the system and then log in using your AMIS username and password. Once you're on the AMIS homepage, select Organizations tab. The page appears blank when you first get there. Let's go on the page, and then your organization should appear. On the organization's detail page, scroll down to the Program Profiles Related list. So Program Profile for your NMTC application. The application, once you're on this page, you're going to want to select the application number if it's already generated, but for the purposes of this webinar, you should just click on the Apply for NMTC Allocation button, the NMTC application. The NMTC application should now be launched. It may take a few moments for your application to open. Once you create an application, it will be listed in the Applications Related list on your organization's profile page. You can exit the application at any time and return to it as needed. Regain access to your application by navigating back to the NMTC Program Profile Detail page as we previously described and click on the application ID number. Users that have access to AMIS and are a valid contact within your organization have the ability to edit your application. Additionally, if your organization applied under a prior round, you may access these applications via My CDFI Fund. To do this, go back to the AMIS portal, select Launcher tab, then select My CDFI Fund, the second link. And now, we'll move on to learning about the user interface of the New Markets application once you've opened it in AMIS. Logging into the application, you land on the Application User Interface homepage. From this point forward, we will refer to the user interface as the UI. The UI has a stationary header at the top of the page that displays important application details. The header includes the control number, a system-generated number assigned to your application, the time when the application must be submitted. Applicants should note that their submission time will be keyed to Eastern Time. For example, if you are in a Pacific time zone, your deadline will appear as 2 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. Any time, a countdown feature that displays how much time is left to work on the application before the application deadline. After the deadline has passed, you will no longer be able to submit your application. Progress bar, a visual gauge that keeps track of your progress as you complete portions of the application. Above the application headers, there are a few helpful links that can help you access resources external to the application. Organization. This is a link to your organization's detail page. When you use this link, it will return you to your organization record in a new window. PDF. This is an option to export and view the application as a PDF file. The PDF prints the current state of the application. If blank, it will show application guidance, questions, and tables. Once answers are entered into the application, the PDF will also include responses. This is the name of the user profile currently editing the application. Exit. Button to exit the application after saving your work. If you exit the application before submitting, you may lose any of the progress made since your last save. We'll take a look at how to utilize the collapsible menu. The menu on the left-hand side of the page will allow you to navigate to different sections of the application. Click on the section title in the menu to expand and view the subsections. This will display links to the subsections below the section title in the menu bar. Clicking on a section title will also bring up a section introduction page in the interface to the right side of the menu. This page describes the section and includes any important details, tips, and instructions the user may need before proceeding to the subsection. To view a subsection, click on the hyperlink next to the subsection title in the menu bar. Reach for the subsection, including the application question and response fields, visible in the UI display to the right of the menu. Note the blue bar at the top of the display lists the name and the section and the subsection currently displayed. If you're finished viewing an application section and would like to minimize its list of subsections, simply click on the section link in the title and the menu again. Here's a quick note on time management when completing your electronic application. Save data, log out, and return to the application at a later date. The application will automatically log you off after 2 hours of inactivity. For example, no movement between screens. If it happens, you'll lose any of the data that was entered and was not saved. Now, look at the application's glossary of terms. Words that are italicized within the electronic application are defined glossary terms. The terms is available in the New Markets application at the bottom of the left-hand menu. Glossary of terms access this repository of information. Let's dive into the application. The item on the menu is the application instructions. It contains a table of the important application deadlines and contact information. Be sure that you review this table in detail. Additionally, be sure to review the contact info in the table below as well. If you experience any technical issues while completing the electronic application, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for you to submit an AMIS service request. In your request entry, set the record type to General Inquiry and the type to NMTC-AMIS Technical Problem. Use AMIS service requests is the best method to submit and track your request. The item on the menu is a page containing the application materials. Click each of the links to access each of these specific resources. As you'll see on the next subpage in this section, information of application materials, you'll have to certify that you've reviewed the provided resources. We'll review a few basic features of the AMIS application questions. If you select Save without making an answer selection, you will see a validation prompt that instructs you that your response has not been saved, but need to answer the question. You'll note that all required questions in electronic application have a red asterisk at the end of the question. You'll be able to complete your application without completing this question and questions like it. Also, you'll notice that you can engage bookmarks for each question in this application. If you select the bookmark subsection checkbox on the right side, a bookmark will appear next to the active question. The question is denoted in bold on the left-hand side of the menu. To deselect the bookmark checkbox, the red bookmark on the left side menu disappears. Also, for this question, if you select no as an answer choice, you will be allowed to submit your application. If you yes and save, the validation error should disappear and you will be able to proceed with your application. You will receive a completion message at the top of the question, and you will also see a green check mark on the left-hand side menu. Click the Help link at the bottom left side of the page to access the electronic instructions, and click the Print Page link to generate a PDF of the subsection for printing. Now we're moving on to the Assurances and Certifications section. The Certification section is divided into 9 subsection pages in the electronic application, questions 1 through 17 and additional certifications. We'll use questions 1 through 9 as an example. Please true, false, or not applicable were available as an option to certification in these sections. In true, the applicant is certifying that the corresponding statement is true. By false, the applicant is certifying that the corresponding statement is not true. By not applicable, they are certifying that the corresponding statement is not applicable to their application. False to questions 1 through 9 of the Assurances and Certifications, you will not be eligible to apply. If you select true and save, you also confirm your response and continue with your application. Moving on to questions 10 through 11. These contain the same answer choices as questions 1 through 9, but in this instance, if you select false, a required text box will appear. In this text field, you'll be required to provide an explanation of why you selected no to this specific question. Please pay attention to the character limits in the text boxes. Questions 12 through 17 and certification regarding debarment, suspension, and other responsibility matters contain the same functionality as questions 10 through 11, so we won't click through each of these sections, but I will note that a true or non-applicable response will not trigger a required text box. Only false response for these questions will trigger such a response. Moving to supplemental certification, applicants unable to select true for a statement in the general certification questions 10 through 17 and statements 1 through 4 in the certification regarding debarment, suspension, and other responsibility matters must agree to the statement below before submitting their allocation application. If you select yes, a certification prompt will appear. Review the prompt below. Once you can certify that your organization is in agreement with this prompt, please select Agreed. If you don't, you will not be able to submit your application. Let's move on to the applicant info. Mark section 6.3 in the electronic application instructions. Data entry field. No text is allowed in this field, only numbers without decimal places. Decimal is inserted, it will be rounded up to the nearest whole number. If so, please be aware and do not include any decimal places in this field. All numerical fields in the application are consistent with this functionality. For purposes of this webinar, we'll just leave this blank for now. Moving on to question 2, we have application instructions and tips at the top of the page. but you see your applicant name and employer identification number pre-populated in the first two fields here. This data is pulled from your organizational profile. If you see discrepancies here, you'll need to revisit your org profile and correct this information. Look, we have a simple drop-down for nonprofit status and a new field type in the org structure selection field. If you're in one organizational type, hold the control button while clicking each applicable org type. If you have no org type, simply select none of the above. The rest selections are similar fields we've seen before, yellows, and question 2G, questions 2G and I are pre-populated. We've seen before, if you select yes for item J, you will be eligible to apply. Question 3. If you select yes to question 3, a series of dependent sub-questions appear for completion. So if you select yes to question 3, a dependent sub-questions appear for completion. You'll here determine whether the tables in Exhibit B, tables D1 and E1, pre-populate with either the applicant or controlling entity labels. Complete the information for controlling entity name, EIN, structure, mailing address, and minority ownership status. The regular info is not required, but you should complete it if it is applicable to your organization. If you select no for this question, question 5B will disappear. So be aware of this function as you complete this section. Additionally, if you select no for this question, you will not be able to access the controlling entity signature page at the bottom of the menu. Moving on to question 4. Applicant mailing info will be populated in these gray fields. Once again, this data is pulled from your organizational profile. If you see any discrepancies here, you'll need to revisit your org profile and correct this information. The green check mark on the left-hand side menu, click the Save button once you confirmed, and continue on to the next question. Moving on to question 5A. Fields, you'll need to perform a search for the applicable authorized representatives, application contacts, and public contacts. Q4, this data is pulled from your organizational profile. If you do not see the proper individuals listed here, you will need to revisit your org profile, update contact list, and the individuals should appear when you perform it again. If you need a selection, simply hit the Clear button to clear the field and make a new selection. Also, one important thing to remember here is that the person listed as the authorized rep for this application, more specifically in this question, will be the only individual allowed to press the Submit button at the end of the application. Moving on to question 5B. Question holds the same functionality as question 5A. The main thing to be aware of here is that your selection here, controlling entity representative name, will automatically pre-populate on the controlling entity signature page. Moving on to question 6. If you say yes, a pre-populated CDE certification number will appear. Verified as a CDE before starting your application, a full number will appear in this field. If you are a new CDE and you're still waiting for your certification number, the default certification number will appear, which should have the 18 NMA prefix followed by the word pending. Moving to question 7. That in the drop-down options for the 4 options are the 4 service area types. To be mindful of here is that you'll need to use the service area that's been most recently approved by the CDFI fund. Motion 8. Select yes, indicating that a national service area. You'll need to select at least 1 and up to 6 additional states which you expect to receive the largest amounts of qualified low-income community investments, or QLICs. Select no more than 7 states for this question. Question 9. A new data input field type. For 3 rows, you will need to insert 3 percentages that collectively add up to 100%. These 3 fields amount to any value below or above 100%. You will receive a validation error message. The 3 fields are automatically aggregated in the 4th field upon saving the question. The question 10. This selection field as well. The important thing to notice here is that if you select other real estate financing, a dependent subfield will appear, prompting you to briefly explain your selection. Pay attention to the character limit. Moving to question 11, we have 2 simple required text fields as we've seen before. They're pre-populated, but again, I can't emphasize that you should be aware of the character limits when completing this section. And hit save to get the green check marks, and you can proceed to the next question. Finally, we have question 12. This should be the last question you complete before submitting your application. Here, you estimate how many hours it takes to complete your application. As a reminder, you must answer this question in order to complete and submit your online application. This concludes the applicant info section of the webinar. A helpful hint is that as you move throughout the application, it may help to close the subsections on the left-hand side of the page as you progress through the application. Now, I'll turn the controls over to Jason Penn, who will proceed with business strategy.
Thank you, Adrian. Now talk about the business strategy, which is 6.4 of the electronic application instructions. Start with question 13A, QLICI uses and activities. This question has a similar functionality that we explained previously, where selecting no is a hard stop for the application, which prevents the applicant from completing the application. Selecting yes and leaving allows you to mark this section as successfully completed. Question 13B, 1 through 4, for QLICI uses and activities, you should complete the table based on the QLICI activities you intend to engage in. Based on your numerical entries here, other sections of the application will be visible or not in your application. You must enter a percentage between 0 and 100 in each field. Let's row 1, 13B1. If you make investments in or loans to qualified fees, you should enter a percentage here. If a percentage greater than 0, then Table A1 and Table A5 will be visible for entries. If you enter 0, Table 1 and A5 will not be visible in your application. Similarly, for 13B2, if you intend to make investments in or loans to other CDEs, enter a percentage greater than 0. Then Table A2 and question 14C will be visible. However, if you enter 0, then Table A2 and question 14C will not be visible in your application. 13B3 and 13B4 will perform the same way. And greater than 0 for 13B3 triggers Table A3 and question 16. And entry greater than 0 in 13B4 triggers Table A4 to be visible. The total of all of your percentages must equal 100 for this subsection to be marked completed as indicated by the green check mark. You can click Save. Moving to section 13B 1 through 4 detailed, it gives you the opportunity to provide more detail about your selections prior to subsection. You should or no response based on your entries into the table in the prior subsection. For example, if you entered greater than 0 in the prior subsection, select yes for 13B1. You can enter detailed percentages about your investments in or loans to qualified fees. Percentages you enter into the subsequent fields must add up to 100%. Similarly, 14B2, if you indicated in the previous subsection you will make investments in or loans to other CDEs, select yes, then percentages and must add up to 100. For B3 and 13B4, you respond to the applicable questions and save. And for question 14, products, rates, and terms the applicant intends to offer, select to each financial product question. Your response will indicate the number of financial products you intend to offer. If you say yes, you must complete an associated narrative. A yes or no response is required for each financial product question. Click Save. In subsection 14C, financing other CDEs, this section will only require a response if you enter a percentage greater than 0 in the table for 13B2. Now, focusing on question 15, additional flexibility of debt. You may A, B, C, D, or E. Selection should align with the associated statements below. For example, select A, you are indicating 100% of QLICs will be provided in the form of equity, equivalent financing, debt with interest rates at least 50% below market, or debt that otherwise satisfies at least 5 indicia of flexible or non-traditional rates and terms, as listed in question 14. Moving to question 16, loan purchasing strategy. This subsection will only require a response if you entered a percentage greater than 0 in the table for 13B3. You can click this section and question 17, the projected NMTC investment subsection. 2 responses are required for this subsection. First, you respond to 17C. a single or discrete number of investments or general pipeline of activities from the dropdown. Then, based on your responses to 17C, you should complete narrative text box for 17D. Click Save. In 18, the subsection for innovative activities, here you can enter your innovative activity commitment. If you intend to pursue them. Select yes or no to the first question. If you select yes, you must complete the narrative question and enter a percentage for the activity you intend to pursue in the following table. If you intend to pursue innovative activities, simply type not applicable into question 2 and enter 0 in each cell in the table. And then you can click Save. Moving to question 19 and question 20, where track record information can be entered into the application. Select or no to question 19. Yes, you will be required to provide a narrative response in the following text box, and table B1 through B3 will be visible in your application. If no, you will not be required to provide a narrative response, and tables B1 through B3 will not be visible in your application. Similarly, for question 20, a selection of yes will make narrative text box appear, and table B4 will become visible in your application, and a no selection will not require you to enter information in the text box, and table B4 will not be visible in your application. Question 21, non-metropolitan county subsection. For point A, B, and C, you must provide a response to questions A, B, and C. In an amount greater than 0 and 20, then subsection question 21D and 21E will be visible in your application, and you are required to complete the subsection. The two narrative boxes related to questions 21D and 21E will require a response. In 21C, then subsection for question 21D and 21E will not be visible in your application. Now we'll skip question 22 because there's a yes or no response into question 23. Question 3 is similar to previous questions. Answer yes or no for bullets A through E and provide a narrative if applicable. Now let's respond to question 23F. If you did select, you must to question 23F. If you did select yes to question 23A through E, simply enter not applicable in question 23F and then click Save. Concludes the discussion of the business strategy section for the webinar, and I'll pass it on to Joan Reed Patrick to continue on with the community outcomes section.
Okay, Jason. As mentioned earlier, my name is Joan Reed Patrick, Policy and Program Officer for the New Markets Tax Credit Program. I will be covering section 6.5, Community Outcomes, 6.6, Management Capacity, and 7.0, Exhibits A to E of the Electronic Application Instructions. By selecting question 24. 4 relates to targeting the use of QLICs. you're required to provide a yes or no response from the drop-down list for sub-questions 1 to 14. For this demo, I will respond yes to sections 1 to 4 and no for questions 5 to 14. As you can see, those questions were actually pre-filled out for this demo. Scroll down to question 24A, and you'll notice it also requires a yes/no response. Since my question or my earlier response to question 24, 1 to 4 is yes, I will go ahead and select yes for 24A. Final question on the page 24B requires you provide a narrative on how you will target investments in the area of higher distress, previously selected in question 24. Use the text box provided to enter your narrative statement. You will now click the Save button before moving to the next subsection. Next subsection, question 25A, relates to prior performance and projections. All required to provide a yes/no response for each impact. For the column where you selected a yes response, a text will appear for you to provide a narrative. For you complete question 1 to 2, so you see the text boxes that appear when yes is selected. As you scroll down the page, you'll notice question 25B is self-explanatory and narrative-driven. You will provide a narrative for question 25B. Now that all fields have been populated, we will save the page and move on to question 26. 26 is accountability and involvement. You are also required to complete C1 in order to provide your responses to the question. As you can see, just as Table 25B, the questions are self-explanatory and narrative-driven. The same format applies to question 27. So keep both 26 and 27. Remember to always click Save at the end of each page to save your data. The next one I'll be demoing is Part 3 of the application instruction, Guidance Management Capacity. Question 28, Organizational Chart and Key Personnel allow you to submit your organizational charts by using the drag and drop method. The drop method appears below any question that requires an attachment. To using the drag and drop function, you will need to first locate the file on your computer you wish to upload using the File Explorer. Next, return to the application page and using the cursor, drag the file you want to upload from your computer to the drag and drop upload box on the application. Once the file is successfully uploaded, the file will be displayed below the drag and drop box. You can upload additional files using the same process. If you remove an uploaded file, simply click the gray X next to the file name. Another note is you will also be required to complete Table C2 with the applicant's or controlling entity personal information. Question 29, 31 are narrative-driven, so we'll skip these questions for this demo. 32, CRA ratings, you will select the applicable response from the drop-down list. If you select yes, a text box will appear for you to provide additional information. So we emphasize, always remember to hit the Save button to save your data. And next, we'll move on to question 33, Financial Health. Question on the page requires that you make a selection from the drop-down list. Note that if you indicate not applicable, your responses for questions 33A through 33D should be NA, or not applicable. However, indicate applicant or controlling entity, you need to provide a yes or no response for questions 33A to D, and where applicable, the form provides text boxes for you to provide narrative for your answers. If you have not completed your audited financial statement, you can enter a name in place of the date. I'll provide a narrative for question 33E as you will also be required to complete Table D2, which is the structure fee, and Table D3, which is income and operating expenses. We'll be going over the tables later on in the demonstration. This concludes my demo on community outcomes and management capacity. I will turn the presentation over to Jason Penn to demo part 4 and 5 of the application.
Now I'll discuss the capitalization section. Section 6.7 of the Electronic Application Instructions. I'll quickly focus on question 35A, investment partnerships. A response will make question 35B visible in your application. If no in question 35A, question 35B will not be visible in your application. Now, capitalization strategy questions 34 and 36 through 40 put all the prompts in the question and complete the required fields. Note about 36E, investment strategy. And to attach investor commitment letters can do so here. Now, to complete all answers within this section, you can click Save. And this is the discussion of the capitalization strategy section. Moving on to Part 5, information regarding previous awards, which is covered in Section 6.8 of the Electronic Application Instructions. Questions 40 and 42 are auto-populated in AMIS. Your awards and allocations and awards and allocations of affiliates will be viewable in questions 41 and 42, to the extent that your affiliates have been recorded in your AMIS account prior to beginning your allocation application. A test account, past award data is unavailable for this application. However, I'll show you the general formatting in a Microsoft Word document. So you'll see your control number on the left and the allocation that you potentially received in any affiliates that might have received. The information is correct in 41 and 42. You can click Yes. All previous awards and allocations are not populated your affiliates on your AMIS account. This ensures that past award and allocation information will be viewable in this application and future electronic applications. You can log into AMIS using your email address and password and select your organization. Select your organization here, and you can scroll down to the affiliate section. Affiliate, and you'll put the affiliate name and 9-digit EIN and click Save to add an affiliate. 43, you're required to answer yes or no. If you received a previous award. If yes, you must complete the narrative text boxes, and then once this is all complete, you can Now move to question 44. Influence or control of previous allocatees. You must answer yes or no to the required field. And click Save. But if you do click yes, you are to complete the subsequent fields for this dynamic entry table. If you intend to add any information to the table, you can just click the Add Row button in the top right. Now, dynamic entry tables are explained in section 5.7 of the electronic application instructions, and we'll discuss it in greater detail in just a few moments. Now, I will turn it back over to Joan. She's going to discuss the exhibits with the application.
Thanks again, Jason. I'll now walk you through how to complete the tables in exhibits A to D. Actually, A to E. For guidance outside of this demo, please refer section 7.0 of the electronic application instructions. The first table is in Exhibit A, Project Activities. Our electronic application features two types of table formats. There is a dynamic record entry and direct entry tables. For dynamic record entry table, rows are generated by creating individual records using the form below the overview table. The user can utilize the form fields to create as many records as needed for the table. The entry table is already laid out on the page, and the user can directly enter data into each data field. As for additional information regarding the data entry fields, please see sections 5.7, Dynamic Record Tables, and 5.8, the entry tables of the application instructions guide. Table A1 to A4 are direct entry tables. Therefore, for this demo, I will provide an example for only table A1 and will skip tables A2 to A4. Please know that only the tables that correspond to your response in questions 13B 1 to 4 will be generated. For this one, again, I will be completing column 2019. Columns were pre-filled in advance. First, you will enter the number of transactions to be financed in row 1. 2, auto-relate the totals for rows 3 and 4. For row 5, you will provide the number of reinvestment transactions. Just for row 2 above, row 6 calculates the totals for rows 7 and 8. So really go back, and for the columns that are actually, so then you see how the total is calculated. For example, if you scroll across the page, you'll see a total column, and that total column calculates each row. If you scroll back to the beginning of the chart, we'll actually enter some data in row 7, so you could see the roll up into row 6. So now save, and we'll move on to table A5, because as mentioned earlier, we will be skipping table A2 to A4. Look at A5 format. It is actually different in comparison to the previous table, because it is a dynamic record entry table. And add as many records as needed to list all your proposed transactions. For this demo, I'll only create one record. You'll populate table A5 by first entering your responses in the applicant response section of the chart below the new row label. This is a record number. This is a required field. However, it helps in getting a count. We'll go ahead and complete that field. Enter the business name and description, followed by the city and state. Abstract. One thing to keep in mind when filling out this field is if you select a general pipeline, you do not have to fill out the census tract field. However, you are still required to fill in the other fields of the table. Select a discrete or single project, you are required to provide the census tract along with the other fields when filling Table 5. Since we selected general pipeline earlier, we will skip the census tract field. And your next field is C. So you provide a response for the non-metro county. Project close date, you select the year from the drop-down list. And you provide responses for field F to field I. Fields. For fields J to K, you will select your responses from the drop-down list. And we will select the applicable responses by holding down the control key. Functionality applies to fields M and N. So we select a couple transactions so you could actually see how it is actually done. The button. Move to Exhibit B. Completing Exhibit B, please note that tables B1 to B3 are dependent on your answer to question 19. Also, dependent on your response, question 3, either the applicant or controlled entity will be displayed on applicable tables. Change the entity that appears on the table, you must do so in question 3. A track record in a particular type of quality or key activity, you indicate this by checking the table is not applicable box at the upper corner of the page. To complete the table, however, you still need to save the page to capture your selection. Since we answered yes to question 19, we will fill in the required information for tables B1 and skip tables B2 to B4, similar to the same format as table B1. For this one, we will concentrate on column 2013. For 1, you enter the total number of businesses. 2, row 2 tells the data of rows 2A and 2B. For 2A, you'll enter the dollar amount of debt financing provided, and for row B, 2B, you'll enter the dollar equity amount. Note that row 3, once you enter your amount, it does not roll up into row 2. It's required dollar amount for this field, or not. As you go across the page, you'll notice that the rows are totaled and displayed in the column that's named or that's labeled totals 2013 to 2018. You will need to enter the totals for the DBCs and non-metropolitan columns. Once you have that and hit save, we'll move on to Exhibit C, the staff on board qualifications. It has 2 tables, C1, which is low income community accountability, and C2, management capacity. Questions are self-explanatory, and both tables are dynamic record tables and covered previously, so we'll skip Exhibit C. Exhibit D, asset management. Tables D1 you may check not applicable if the applicant does not have a portfolio of operating businesses, loans, and equity investments. You can also select not applicable if the applicant does not have a portfolio of real estate loans and equity investments. However, you must still complete the table by filling in 0 in all the fields and save page. For this, they will focus on fiscal year or FY 2015. You will enter a response for all the fields on the column FY 2015. The questions are self-explanatory and should be easy to follow. We'll populate the required fields for on the column FYE 2015. Once we have completed that and saved the page, we'll move to the next table, which is D2, and that is the fee structure. For table D2, I just wanted to highlight that this is a new table for this round. Table D2 is a dynamic table, which also allows you to enter as many records as needed. First, you will enter the record number on the new row section. Next, for the field type or for the type field, select the type of fee from the drop-down list. Field asks for the source or payer, which you'll also select from the drop-down list provided. Next field relates to the recipient payee, and so select the response from the list provided. Amount is a manually input field. You are required to provide a percentage in this field. The field is a narrative-driven field. You will also be required to provide additional information explaining the fee in this field. When all the required fields are filled, you'll save the record and continue with the same process to add other records. Since D3 is a direct entry format and was covered previously, we will now move on to Exhibit E, Investor Strategy. E1 is a direct entry table. I will only demo column 2013 to show its functionality. They were filled out earlier for the sake of this demo. The first two rows, row 1 and 2, are grayed out. Row 1 sums up rows 3, 5, 7, and 9. So we'll go ahead and enter data, that functionality. Row 1, we're going to enter data in rows 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Okay, and the row and this and for row and for some and the sum of rows of populate the fields for column 13. Okay, so we'll go ahead and populate this field. This column. You enter once all that I said earlier. Once you enter these data, that rows 1 and 2 auto-populates. Once all the fields have been filled in, we'll now save the table and move to table E2. Table E2 and E3 are also both dynamic formats and were demoed early on in the presentation, the format. So we'll skip both tables for this demo. For table E3, the varied investor letters that accompany table E3 cannot be uploaded in the table subsection page. As Jason mentioned earlier, investor letters or any other necessary documentation can be loaded in the table's corresponding subsection on question 36E. For additional guidance on how to complete the tables, please refer to Section 7.0 of the Electronic Application Instructions. This includes the presentation and exhibits and tables. I'll turn the demo over to Adrian to talk about the application submission.
Thanks, Joan. 1 second. All right. So now that you've entered in all of your application info, it's now time to progress to the controlling entity signature page. As mentioned earlier, if you answered yes to question 3, then the controlling entity signature page should be visible. If you answered no, the controlling entity signature page should not be visible. We have the instructions at the top of the page, and the first 4 rows are populated for this section. To print out your page, you'll need to hit the print page link on the bottom right-hand side of the page. And once you do so, you should expect a PDF to generate in a new tab or page. There, you'll need to follow the manual entry instructions in parentheses to sign and print applicable data fields. And once your document is signed and completed, you'll need to scan and upload the document to your computer using the drag and drop function. Beautiful. So, once uploaded, hit the Save button, and now you can progress to the next page. Submit your application. Oh, before you actually submit your application, we have to go back and complete question 12. As we mentioned before, the very last question that you complete in the application should be time to completion. So go back to question 12 in a data field, in the data field a number, numeric value, asking how long it really took us to complete this application, and then we'll save. And now that all of the data fields have been completed for the application, we can see at the progress bar that we're at 100% completion, and we can move down to the submission piece. So on this page, you'll need to click on the checkbox to indicate your electronic signature. As a reminder, only an authorized rep that's listed in the application info part of the application can check this, can select this checkbox. So as you can see, once you select the checkbox, your name and the date and time of your attestation should appear. All you'll need now to do is hit the Submit Application button. Okay, little trick we built in. So if you're remember from the earlier on in the application, we didn't complete question in the application information page. This was basically to show you that if you have a specific data field or question that goes unanswered in the application, you won't be able to submit your application unless you complete all of the required fields. That we've entered in an entry into question 1, the subsection has been marked completed. So we can go back to the attestation and submission piece, and I will give it another try. We'll hit the Submit Application button. Now, you'll see you have a green confirmation prompt at the top of the page indicating that you've submitted your application. After you submit your application, you'd also expect to receive an email with name, attestation date, and a brief confirmation prompt. That is it for the webinar. Good luck on your applications, and feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. And as a reminder, we should again emphasize that we're available to you as a resource, but again, an AMIS service request is the best method, one, to document your issue, but then two, to make sure that we can get to it in a timely and an efficient manner. So should wrap up the New Markets Electronic Application webinar. It's been Adrian Russell, Jason Penn, and Joan Reed-Patrick. Good luck and good day.
Thank you, and that concludes today's conference. You may disconnect at this time.